Hey folks, and greetings from Japan. No, this isn't a cosplay video. I'm currently at a hot spring hotel enjoying the onsens, and this is the clothes they give to you when you're staying here. Basically, this trip has been a phenomenal reset, a nice downtime to relax and reflect and think about what I've got coming up. And a couple of different projects that I have on the back burner have started to congeal in my mind, and I found a way that I can actually complete 3 different projects with one job that I've got coming up, and I wanted to basically share that with you. And I thought it's a great time to actually go through and share with you how I actually make money as a photographer. Now, I've spoken about this at different times on my different videos. I have my business of photography course and whatnot where I share a lot of that. But things have changed a lot, and if I look at where I started out to where I am now, basically nothing that I'm doing now I was doing then. It's not like a normal job where it might slightly refine but the core parts stay the same. It's completely different. So let's go through it. Now, when I first started, probably about 15 years ago, I was working in a government department as an events manager and a photographer, and I was building up my photography business and my clients and my experience on the side. And when I finally stepped into doing it full time, basically I would take any job that was going because I needed the income, and the reality of still having a mortgage but having given up my 9-to-5 was setting in. So at that time I was doing any kind of portraits that I could get that would pay, and basically any kind of events. So that was mainly weddings, parties, kids' birthday parties, kids' sporting events, any kind of events essentially. That's where 100% of my photography income was coming from. So step that forward a few years, and roughly 2012 to 2016, I was starting to get into doing tours and workshops. So it was a mix at that point of doing the workshops where I would teach photography for a weekend or a day, and then some private clients, then doing tours where I would take clients to Peru, Nepal, Namibia, Mongolia, Bhutan, Iceland, and Japan, as well as I was by that time doing YouTube, and I was doing some client work. So where brands either wanted me to make content for their uses on their different equipment or for a product that they were launching, or doing stuff on YouTube in terms of a promotion. I was traveling about 6 months a year at that time, and it's funny to think back because now I'm in Japan and I'm loving it so much, but we used to come to Japan every single year since about 2010 through to, or earlier than that, probably 2006 through to 2019. And that was the last time I was here, right at this time of year in 2019. We came for our wedding anniversary. I was able to meet with a geisha. Not sure if you saw that video, but it was one of my most special and treasured photography memories. And I made a photo book from that trip. I'll share that with you once I get back to Hong Kong. But at that time, the balance had already started to shift, and it was the tours were the biggest part of my income at that time. Then fast forwarding, in that period was also, at the end of that period, I released a couple of books via Kickstarter, and I was selling the books after that as physical books and ebooks, as well as selling photo prints, which is something that I want to get back to doing. That's part of the project that I'm getting back into. So is the books. Then from 2016 to 2019, I was doing everything I just said, but I got more and more into doing online courses. So I was selling them through my own website, mattgranger.com, and that was starting to build up, and that probably got to about being equal with the tours and workshops. So it was probably roughly something like 40% tours and workshops, 40% teaching online, and 20% doing brand work or events or paid portraits, that kind of thing. Then COVID hit, and I was really fortunate that at the end of 2019, I had set up learn.mattgranger.com and learn.artnudeportraiture.com, well, around then and a bit after, which set me up, and I was in a really good position that when the tours and workshops basically dried up for 2020, 2021 because of not being able to travel, I was in a position to be able to teach online. And to be honest, that grew to probably take up the workshop part of the income altogether. So it probably grew to being 70 or 80% of my overall income, with maybe 30% being brand work or the occasional paid portrait client. And then, selling books and ebooks and stuff was in there as well. Now, that's been good business-wise, but it's not what I love to do. I love being out on the road, traveling, making images in a spontaneous way. It's kind of ironic, now that I'm teaching more, I probably actually spend more time with the camera in my hand. When you're running a tour, it's all about the clients, making sure they get the shots. It's when I go and do my site visits or those moments when I'm not helping a client that I get to shoot for myself. But, when I'm out teaching, especially when it's for online, I am actually camera in hand, teaching, thinking, getting shots all day. It's just not the kind of location creative stuff that I really find enjoyable. So now that travel is reopening, I live in Hong Kong these days. They've finally gotten rid of quarantine when you're coming back in. I'll be picking up my travel a lot. So as I said, for 2023, I will be bringing tours back. At this stage, I'm going to be starting off with Iceland and Kyrgyzstan. You can hit me up if you're interested in either of those for more details. We're just about finished sorting them out. But at the end of November, I'm planning to go to Iceland, and I'm going to be finishing off a course that we filmed most of there back in May. I'll also be finishing off a book that's, well, actually kind of two books that have been going on in the background for several years. One of them is, I just kind of started putting it together, the teaching part, because it's going to be a course and a book. So finishing that one off, and then just a pure photo book that I've been working on for ages that has, from my half a dozen or 10 trips to Iceland, is going to round out my Iceland trip. And coincidentally, I'm going to be able to bring back in the selling prints, which is something I really wanted to do, but it's been a challenge for me trying to find what's going to be the best way that's going to have the best quality, be able to get to all of the different countries that I have clients in, and be cost effective and not become a full-time job where I can't keep doing what I'm doing in other parts of my business. So right now, I need to actually pack and get out of this onsen town and head on the rest of our trip. But I wanted to get these thoughts down right now, and then I'll rejoin you in Hong Kong. I'll show you that photo book from my last trip to Japan, and actually the ones that I've made on some of my previous tours. And then keep talking you through the rest of this project and let you know some cool things that are going to be involved and how maybe you can get involved as well. So let's go pack. Look at your little tail. Okay, so back to Hong Kong now. Had a great time in Japan. Now got about a week of hardcore work and getting ready for the trip to Iceland. Now for that trip, there's several different parts, but as I said, I'm wrapping up a couple of different projects at the same time. Part of it, I'm going to be getting some pickup shots for a new course I'm going to be releasing, Educating Steph. That's a really fun one. But the main thing that I'm going for is to visit some areas that I've never been to in the East during winter time, to get some different images to round out a photo project that I've been working on over the past 5 or 6 years of going to Iceland to make a book. Now, as I mentioned when I was in Japan, over the years I've made loads of different photo books. I've published a couple of my own books, and then as I was leading tours to all these different countries, I started gifting my guests, well, it was built into the cost of the tour obviously, SAAL photo books. You would probably have seen me talk about them on the channel before. These are all some of my dozen or so different books that I've made with them. It's just a great memento. This is one I made of that trip with the geisha. It's a really cool way of doing it, I think. Each of the guests get to contribute a few of their favorite shots from the trip, and then we make a book that includes all of our different shots. and it's just an awesome memento. And these aren't like blurb quality books, they blow your average wedding photo album out of the water. Now, I've made loads of these over time. If you've been following the channel, what's this one? This is one I shot a huge project with Steph and Johanna and made them both a kind of a lookbook of all these different looks, different outfits, different kinds of styles that they could use for their work. And as I did that, some of the books you can, well, all the books you can opt to add one of these boxes. This is the only fabric one I've done. Normally I do them in a leather one, but for this one I thought fabric worked nicely.
Oh my god, this is such a nice like packaging. Are you serious? What?
I need a real nice house to put this in.
Oh, this is so bougie. It's so fancy.
Oh my god.
I made a bigger version for myself that was with both of their different work, plus some outtake shots. It was more of a fun one for myself. I don't know if I have one of the actual tour books here, but here's one I made for my dad and myself when I took him on a road trip through Route 66. They have all different paper stocks. This is one of the thinner ones. The other ones I was showing, they're like lay flat page ones. And this one is a collection of all my different travel works. You can see it's quite huge, but this has, I don't know how many pages, maybe hundreds of pages. Oops, come on, Matt, don't lock down all your lucky charms. But again, all of them I get with this acrylic cover that you can put a feature photo in, so really nice. So long story short, I wanted to get this book done, finding, and side note, also I've been trying to get prints done as well. That's been in my kind of too hard basket for a long time, because trying to find a balance of what's the right kind of quality, but where I don't have to have a warehouse of my own, where it's kind of print on demand, but not at that typical consumer level quality. It's really difficult, but I found that SAAL now has this online photo portal where you can store your images, share projects, work on them with clients and, you know, get revisions and everything, but then also put the projects up there and have them for sale. So you could have it then just to sell your one wedding album or photo album from a tour or a trip or that kind of thing, or you could put up a full book there and then make it available to the public to buy. And they actually don't charge a commission or anything. They're making their money from printing the book. So I get to set the price, and the difference between the cost price and the retail price comes to me. So let's see how it all pans out. But my goal is on this Iceland trip to finish off everything I need to make a giant book of my Iceland work that will round that out as you know, a standalone piece of work for myself, a nice kind of calling card for my photography tours in Iceland, and just a great memento because Iceland is one of my favorite places to travel in the world. So that all kind of brings us up to right now, 2022, end of the year. My goal for 2023 and 24 is to start running more photo tours, to be bringing on doing more books and selling limited edition prints as well, and kind of getting a more diversified stream of incomes within the photography part of my overall income, so that I'm not so heavily reliant on online teaching and I'm spending more of my time out in the field shooting and doing what I love most. I should say, when I was talking in Japan, I made it sound like I don't enjoy the online teaching. I actually really do. I'm working with great people. I set the agenda and make the course and oversee the editing. It's really fun, but it's still not my favorite thing. I would rather be out there exploring, going to new places, interacting with people from different cultures in the field. So that's my goal, that by 2025, I'm back to having a really good mix, having 4 to 6 months or so a year on the road, out there shooting, still making courses for my different websites, but making tangible products as well, and engaging with different kinds of brands and jobs that being on the road opens up. If you're just stuck in one city, in a sense, you're somewhat limited, especially for the kind of thing that I do. So that's an overview of what I've got going on, and generally how I have in the past made money from my photography business through to how I am now and how I'm hoping to mix it up in the next couple of years. If you have any question about any of the topics that I've talked about today, I'll have links to the different books and videos and projects and everything that I have mentioned in this video below. But any questions, please fire away. I am an open book, for want of a better word, and I'm happy to share this with you guys. There's no kind of mysticism here. It's finding your way through in any business. It's about being adaptable and flexible. You know that famous quote, that's the strongest of the species that survive. It's actually a misquote. The real quote is, it's the most adaptable that survives. And that's truly the case in business. If I had just stuck doing what I was doing before, let's say I was still just an event photographer, not as if just is lesser, but that's all I was doing. Once COVID hit, my business would have been decimated. If all I was doing was tours, it would have been decimated. So having diversity and setting yourself up for when the market changes, or as you get older and you can't run back to back to back tours anymore because it's too exhausting, you need to be thinking about where are the gaps in the market, where do I want to be, what kind of lifestyle I want to be working in, and what's going to, generate the kind of income that I need to sustain myself and my family and my lifestyle and that kind of thing. So there's a second conclusion, I guess. Let me know any questions that you have. Check out the links below. I'll see you soon.